Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to the face in the card making space and another STAMPtember limited edition exclusive collab stamp set. Today's collaboration is with Ink on 3, and I love this set. I don't work with layering stamps very much. I love my layering stencils. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I will go out of my way to avoid them, or I'll just use the outline and I'll color it. And I honestly was going to do it with this set. I was going to stamp the outlines and then like watercolor or something. And then I just told myself to get over myself and just stamp the layers and loved it. Pulled out some inks. There is a layering guide on the back of it as well, which helps, but it all just came together and I really love it. And I had lots of fun making it. Again, for those that aren't aware, the limited edition collaboration sets are one and done. When they sell out, they are not going to be restocked. However, Ink on 3 has many products worth checking out. She's got stamps and stencils and inks and embossing powders. I will have a link to the Ink on 3 line in my description box below, along with the collaboration set and everything else I used. That will all be linked in the description box below the video. And my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you use one of my links, if you click on it, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. And that's all I got to say for the moment. Let's get into making this card. So this is the little Chickadee stamp set. It's a 6x8 stamp set. And all high quality photopolymer stamps have a coating on them. It's part of the washing out process when they're manufactured. And when they are super shiny, brand new, have not been used before, it really helps to condition them before you stamp with them. If you find your ink is beading up on your stamps, it most likely just needs a good little conditioning. You can stamp it multiple times on scrap paper. I was just showing there, I just rub my fingers all over my stamps. Works like a charm. You can also use a white eraser, things like that. Just don't use anything super harsh. It just needs a little love. And they'll work great. So I did all that since I was going to use all of the solid images to stamp the layers. And the first thing I did was stamp the outlines. And I'm just using, I'm going old school here. I think that's also why I started avoiding using layering stamps for a long time, is I found it, for me, a little frustrating with my MISTI stamp positioner to do them. I am old school. This is what we had to do back in the back in the day. It was wood mounted stamps. You couldn't even see where you were stamping. But using my little acrylic blocks, so much easier. I don't know. This worked. It was ridiculous how simple this was. And then I just start kicking myself. It's why have I been avoiding using layering stamps, or just trying not to? So I stamped the images from the set onto Simon's Smooth White 120 pound cardstock. And I started with the Intense Black ink for all the outlines. And then I am using a variety of Simon's Pawsitively saturated inks to stamp the layers. And on the back of the packaging, it has the layering guide. And then you can kind of see it on the stamp packaging itself. It's also numbered A1, A2, A3, and so on. So it's all pretty simple. The bird threw me for a loop for this one specific one. I was like, I don't know where this goes. And then once my brain figured it out, everything just came together. So love it. I love it. And you could stamp him with different colors. He would look really cute because he has a chickadee. You could do neutral, warm grays and things like that. And he would look adorable. But I kind of took inspiration from the layering guide on the back of the packaging. I was like, I like these colors. I'm going to use colors similar. So for the bird, I used Cappuccino for the branch. And then I used Morning, Dusk, and Mist inks from my little birdie. And then for the little branch on that little leaf piece, same thing, the Cappuccino ink. And then for my greens, I was using Cabbage and Field inks. And at first I was going to do the old rock and roll technique where you ink up the stamp in a lighter color and then you rock it in a darker color. However, I didn't like that harsh line because, again, that's what we used to do back in the day because we didn't have all the tools we have now. Now we got all the things. So instead, I pulled out one of my Picket Fence Studios little pint-sized paper pouncers, and I inked up the stamp with the lighter ink, which was Cabbage. And then I used the pouncer to ink up the darker ink, which was Field, and just pounce that along the stamp before I pressing it into the cardstock. And that way I get a multi-tone image. And because the positively saturated inks, smooth out and soften as they dry, it just creates a great little blend. So did that with those ones, and then the individual leaves I just stamped solid with those two different green inks. And then for this flower, I'm using two different shades of yellow, which are butter and then honey. So I started with butter, the lighter shade, and it's I can't help it. It's stamped like butter. Anyway, and then the darker shade. And then there are flower centers included, like as a individual stamp. And at first I was like, but why? The outline stamps, the flower center. But then I was like, ooh, man, if I let all of this like fully dry, you got to let everything like dry, make sure your inks are dry. You could heat emboss the flower centers because it lines up. It lines up perfectly. I stamped mine just slightly offset with MOCHA ink just because. But you could let everything dry and then heat emboss it, like heat emboss them in gold. Oh, it would look amazing. I didn't think about that till after, but it's an idea and I think it would look so nice. So it's like that for both of the florals. So for the other flower, I used clay and brick inks. And then I stamped the smushy, whatever, kind of solid piece for the center. That I stamped with the MOCHA ink, which on camera right now, like it looks like just a blob. But once it's all dry, it's really pretty. So I did all that, cut out all the pieces. And then I pulled out one of my just oldie but goodie favorites. This is the Simon Says Stamps Detail Ringlet Plate Wafer Die. I have used this many times. I love it. I love it. So I die cut it from a panel of white cardstock. And then I'm just blending those two shades of blue onto this. So I started with the lighter, which was Morning, and one of my blending brushes. And then I'm going in with Dusk and just, adding that blend. And again, love this detail ringlet plate. So perfect. So after I was happy with my blend, I trimmed this down because the plate cuts the background to an A2 size, so 4¼ by 5½. So I trimmed this down a little bit. I took like 1/8 of an inch off all sides, so it ends up being like 4 by 5¼ And then that tag is another oldie but goodie favorite. This has been around forever. It's the Simon Says Stamp Large Rounded Tag Wafer Die. And I die cut that from some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. And then I pulled out some ribbon from my stash, some like faux silk ribbon. And I took one piece and kind of wrapped it around, like threaded it through the hole in the tag, wrapped it around so that this will hold the other piece of ribbon so I can tie in a bow, which is easier to show than explain. And the piece that I wrapped around, I just taped the back with some washi tape because I'm going to put foam tape on the back of this and it's going to hold everything like securely. So we're good to go. So this is just holding this piece so I can sit and fiddle and make a bow, which took me a hot minute to, get my brain and my fingers to work in tandem so I could create that bow. And then once I was happy with it, trim off those little tails. And then I've got my cute little tag with its cute little bow. And off camera, I kind of arranged my little birdie and the branch and the florals and whatnot. And then once I was happy with that, I committed and started adhering everything to the tag. And I'm just adhering everything with craft tacky glue. And I'm just going to kind of work my way around and adhere florals and leaves and the little bird. And he's so cute. I've talked about this in the past. That's another thing I used to avoid for whatever random reason. Hello, welcome to my brain space. Is bird images. I avoided them for years. Like I don't know what it was. I don't know why. And then I finally, again, got over myself and started using little bird, wafer dies and stamps. And I love them because I love birds. I don't have a phobia of them. I just wouldn't use them on cards. I don't know, you guys. Sometimes I just shake my head at myself. But I love little birds and I like putting them on cards. I put a bird on it every chance I get. So that's what I did today. So got everything adhered. And then I pulled out my Tim Holtz paper distresser and thread cutter to rough up the edges of that background panel because why not? You know, it adds a bit of texture and it's fun. It makes a mess and I love it. So I roughed up all those edges, and then I used Simon Says Stamps Big Mama foam tape to adhere the tag to the background. So this will pop it up a little bit, but it won't create a bunch of bulk because this foam tape is super thin. That's why I love it so much. So I put the tape on the back of the tag and then added a few little pieces to the parts that were hanging over the edge of the tag. So everything's, you know, going to be nice and secure. And then adhered that to the background. And then, of course, I'm going to add some splatter because that's just what we do. So I'm going to add 2 different kinds of splatter just because I can. So I'm using some Altenew white gouache. I put a little bit on my palette. I'm going to add a bit of water to this to thin it out to get it to just a nice consistency. And then I'll mix that all together with my little fan brush. I've got my background in my little splat box to help contain most of the splatter. And then we're just going to go to town and add a decent amount of splatter. And because I added a decent amount of water to this, it will dry back a little bit and soften and not be like stark white, but it's still there. It creates a nice amount of texture. So I did that, cleaned off my brush, and then I'm going to add some gold splatter because you can't go wrong with, 1, you can't go wrong with splatter in my opinion, and 2, you can't go wrong with gold. So I've got my Gansai Tombi Starry Colors, and of course my main one, which is, you know, on getting close to its last legs. I am diligently scraping the corners of that little pan because I have hit the bottom of that pan. But added some water to it, swirled it up really, really good with my fan brush, and then added gold splatter to this as well. And then I just got to let that dry, which doesn't take very long. So once all of my splatter is nice and dry and I've washed my brush out, etc., I grabbed a scrap of that same smooth white cardstock and I used my anti-static powder tool on it, and I'm stamping the little happy birthday sentiment from that little Chickadee stamp set. And I stamped that with clear embossing ink, and I'm coating it with some detailed gold embossing powder. Tap off the excess. I'm going to melt this with my heat tool until it is smooth and shiny and melted. And then I'm going to die cut this with one of the, another oldie but goodie favorites, one of the Simon Says Stamps Sentiment Label wafer dies. So I'll tape that into place with washi tape so it doesn't shift when I run it through my die cut machine. And then after I die cut it, I just adhered it into place with some glue and a little bit of foam tape. So got that adhered. And then my card base is also Nina Desert Storm cardstock that I had cut the sheet in half and scored it at 5.5 inches. So this is a top folding A2 card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5. And then I adhered the remaining florals and leaves to the inside. I decided not to stamp any sentiments. There's a couple of good sentiments too for like birthday theme that I could have stamped on the inside, but I decided to just adhere the little florals and leaves and leave it at that. And then I'm going to adhere the card front to the card base, also with Big Mama foam tape. So it just pops it up again, just a smidge, you know, just it creates that little extra bit of dimension. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I've got the Simon Says Stamps Stay Gold confetti. So I'm going to sprinkle just a few of them around my little tag and my little birdie, and then adhere those into place with dabs of craft tacky glue. Once those are adhered, I just got to let the glue dry and this card is complete. So, as always, this is a limited edition collaboration set. Once it's sold out, it is not restocked, but I highly recommend checking out the Ink on 3 product line. They've got a ton of amazing products. Everything else I used will also be listed and linked and is part of, you know, the regular everyday stuff. So you can just check out the description box below for all of that info. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, for thumbs upping and commenting. Subscribe if you haven't. We'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.